It's about better global alignment and coherence towards global health security by shifting away from the foreign aid paradigm towards a strategic investment paradigm and the creation of a global health threats fund.
What is clear is that global health security is dangerously underfunded. We are consequently vulnerable to a prolonged COVID-19 pandemic, with repeated waves affecting all countries, and we are also vulnerable to future pandemics. We can fix this. The resources that need to be mobilized are larger than what nations have collectively been willing to commit to in the past, but they're very small investments compared to the costs of a prolonged COVID-19 pandemic, and they're tiny investments compared to the costs of future pandemics that we can avoid.
The panel calls for the strengthening of predictable and reliable multilateral financing for the WHO, the repurposing of international financial institutions to help bolster countries' preparedness while becoming more agile when pandemics are triggered, and establishing a new multilateral funding mechanism for global health security.
This fund will not be a new institution because we shouldn't add to the complexity of the global health security landscape. It will not be a new institution with its own operations. It will instead fund existing institutions and networks and prioritize and reprioritize based on the needs of the times. This way, we add a strong multilateral layer on top of a siloed landscape without duplicating existing mechanisms.
The proposal suggests that the fund be governed by a board of G20 health and finance ministers, along with WHO and other international institutions, with a permanent secretariat to set up and support the fund.
Fundamentally, this requires a new way of thinking about international cooperation. We have to move away from thinking about funding of global health security in terms of foreign aid, towards thinking about it as a strategic investment that all nations must make, not only for the good of the global community, but because it is in each nation's self-interest. It's not about aid to other countries, it's about a strategic investment that we must collectively make in all our own interests.
The WHO indicated that with the upcoming UN General Assembly in September, the G20 Summit in October, and a special session of the World Health Assembly in November, the next 3 months will be critical for shaping future pandemic preparedness.
Whatever structures and mechanisms emerge, WHO believes they must be grounded in several core principles. They must have the engagement and ownership of all countries. They must be linked to and aligned with the constitutional mandate of WHO, rather than creating parallel structures which could lead to further fragmentation of the global health architecture, as the senior ministers said. They must involve partners from across the One Health spectrum, including animal and environmental health, civil society, and the private sector. They must ensure coherence with the international health regulations and other international instruments, and they must be accountable.
Planning for future pandemics while the world remains firmly engrossed in the current one, with no real end in sight. Sherwin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.